Hello, welcome in or welcome back to my channel. My name is Deb from DG Reads, and it's time to continue on in the Dungeons Book Dragons Readathon. The fourth leg of our quests just dropped on Friday night, and since I didn't quite finish up the book that I had hoped to submit as a side quest, I was very pleased to find out that The Strength of the Few, which I read during my last vlog and didn't quite finish, worked for the main quest for this leg of the journey. The prompt is for a book with stakes, with tension, and this book definitely has all of that going on. So this is taking care of my main quest, and I can continue on into my side quests. I have not done a whole lot of reading this weekend, largely because I got vaccines on Friday, and that left me a little bit under the weather yesterday. It was rainy, it was thundery, it was lightningy, and I wound up wasting it on laying in bed and watching TV instead of getting good reading in. That's fine. I don't mind too much, but I'm excited to get back into reading now that I'm feeling better this morning. For this week, since the Goodreads Choice Award nominees just came out last week, and there are so many on there that I really want to read that I haven't been able to read yet, I decided that I would try to work on reading books for the side quests that come straight off of the Goodreads Choice Award nominees list. From any category, I have books pretty much in most of the categories on my shelves, so I think that gives us a lot of options that should work for these prompts. The only prompt that will not work is for a book that was published in a year ending in my birth year, because any book published for the Goodreads Choice Award would have come out in 24 or 25, and neither of those are my birth year. So if that prompt comes up, I will go ahead and re-roll. So without further ado, let's go ahead and figure out what our first book is going to be, what category it's going to be. I believe the next set of prompts drops Wednesday night, so I don't think we're going to get a ton in for this particular vlog. This vlog probably will cover legs 4 and 5 is my guess, or at least partially 5. Depends on the timing of things. My brain is not 100% fully functional yet, so once I have my coffee, I will figure things out better. But first, let's go ahead and bring back the D8 dice and see what it is that we get. All right, so we got a 7. A 7 is a book that's sweet or twisty, and I think I'm definitely going the twisty route. This should not surprise you. And one of the books that I've really been wanting to get to and haven't yet is Don't Let Him In by Lisa Jewell. This is a kind of bad men treating women poorly type of a story. I actually went to a release week author event with Lisa Jewell, which was a ton of fun. I've had this signed copy ever since that event, and I just haven't gotten around to picking it up. And I meant to read it actually for something last week, and I couldn't find my copy. It required me digging on a stack that had gotten buried. So I'm happy that I now know where this is and that I do have an excuse to pick it up. So I will get going on it, let you know more about it once I'm a good ways into it. It has been several days, and I am finally checking in with you about Don't Let Him In. I had a bit of an off weekend. I was just really not up to reading a ton over the weekend. So with that, I have not gotten very far for this particular leg with my side quest. It is now Tuesday morning. Can you see Kylie? She's sitting on a chair next to me. The prompts will drop tomorrow night. So I'm hoping I can finish this book and then maybe one more. I am probably just going to go real quick film a roll because I realized I didn't do that when the camera was upstairs. So we know what our next prompt is going to be, possibly. But this vlog is definitely going into the next leg of the journey since I've made it basically nowhere for this one. So with that, I did want to give you an update on Don't Let Him In. And this one, we are primarily following this family. They have lost the father. The mom gets contacted out of the blue by an old friend of her husband, or so he says, and they form a relationship and a romance. Her adult daughter is watching this happen and is kind of thinking, A, it's really soon, but also B, he's a little bit off-putting to her. There's little things about him that she's just not feeling like are adding up for her, and she starts looking into him a little bit. In between those chapters, we're also getting several instances of a man, presumably this man, but maybe not, going and fooling other women into thinking they're his only woman in life, wife, girlfriend, whatever it may be. The ways he does this, the smoothness of his con is really impressive. He can come up with an excuse on the drop of a hat, which I could never do to save my life. And it's really interesting kind of being in his head. That said, I feel like we're spending a lot of time in those male POV chapters without yet, at nearly the halfway point, exactly knowing how that's going to tie together with everything else. And it's not so much hooked me. I like the chapters where we're following the family. I like seeing that point of view and seeing the daughter come up with things that don't make sense. Like, why would he be carrying poop bags in his pocket if he doesn't have a dog? And seeing her questioning things, and also seeing him predict what she's suspicious about and coming up with answers for that too. And seeing things become kind of a situation where things make sense, but also her suspicions are still up. We are seeing some of the women in other chapters kind of start to question things as well. We are getting an alternate woman's POV at this point as well. And I think it's really interesting how this is going. I remember the author talking about the fun or the process of getting into this horrible man's mind. And I can see that she's having fun with that in the different scenarios and so forth, but it's not 100% got my attention. I had kind of not the best reading weekend, so that could also be a factor in what's going on here. So I'm hoping as I get further into the book that I'm going to wind up enjoying it more. Want to say hi? She's been trying to get my attention this whole time, so apparently she wanted to come say hi. Say hi to the peoples. Hi to the peoples. Say Debbie was very lazy this weekend and didn't read, and now I want to sit in her lap while she reads all night, but she has to go to work, so that's a bummer. Yeah, okay. All right, so with that update from Kylie, this vlog is a mess. I will go ahead and leave you here because I do have to finish getting my stuff ready to go to work, unfortunately, but I'm hoping to have a good reading night tonight. Good morning. It was below 50 degrees when I got up this morning. It's getting harder to get out of bed in the mornings. In as much as I would love to just sit and stay in bed, I unfortunately have to go to work. But first, I do have a couple of updates for you for this readathon. One, I finished up Don't Let Him In yesterday. And overall, I liked how this ended, how it went. I think there was a lot of interesting to it, but I feel like it was a little too disjointed. It was a little too almost straightforward. There was a lot of lying, a lot of secrets, but the reader's kind of in on it because we're in the bad guy's head. And some of the twists that I thought might have been going on in here did not come to fruition. We do get a couple reveals that I didn't necessarily 100% know were coming, but I think it's more straightforward. I don't even know what genre I'd put this in. Not so much thriller, but definitely still in that genre. I don't know. It's not a mystery because we know what's going on. It's kind of a mystery in terms of not knowing where it's headed and what the final ultimate thing is. The characters are certainly researching and looking into things, so maybe it would fit more so there for me. But anyway, I did like the writing. I liked the fact that the author was playing around with the concept and obviously enjoying this concept in here. So in the end, this is like a 3.5 for me. It just didn't quite hit the mark for the twisty thriller I was kind of hoping for, but still had a good time with the reading process. And then on my way out yesterday, I did roll the dice. I rolled to get a prompt that is a dangerous or illegal experiment, I think is the wording on it. I could be a little off on that. But for that one, I figured it would be hard to pick a book, but I did find one that worked with the Goodreads Choice Award from the sci-fi category, and that is The Merge by Grace Walker. This is a relatively recent release. I actually have an advanced listener copy from Libro FM and Mariner Books. This one did catch my eye as an intriguing read, so I'm glad that I finally got a chance to pick it up. It just came out in November, I believe. And this is set in a world not so much unlike ours, where there's a limit of resources. We're running out of food, we're running out of energy, we're running out of everything. And the government in this particular case has determined that one way to handle this is population control. There's things like forced pregnancy tests. There's things that take people out of their housing if they can't afford it and put them into something else. And another way, an experimental way, that they are tackling this is by merging people, taking two consciousnesses and putting them into one body, thereby reducing the amount of resources needed for this world. And we are following a main character who has been very anti-merge and blames this whole merge process for the loss of her father, and is therefore kind of going in undercover to try to get inside information by posing as someone who wants to merge. Her mother has Alzheimer's. That's her kind of reason for her enlightening, finally deciding that she needs to give this whole merge thing a chance, because if her mother merges with her, her mother's dementia would go away. Her consciousness would be fine. She wouldn't lose her memories. They would be preserved within her. But of course, she's just there for the purpose of revealing what goes on behind closed doors with this whole merging process. There's like a group support type thing with a bunch of different people who are there pursuing merging and their various reasons, whether it be illness, addiction, Alzheimer's. There's probably a couple other things, but it is something with some really interesting discussions going on. I am finding it really fascinating. Would I ever want somebody else's consciousness inside my head with me? No, my voice in my head is more than enough, but I'm finding it really interesting, and the reasons some of these characters are doing this is separate from the whole government mandate. So far I am enjoying this. I'm about 40% of the way in. I have till 9 o'clock my time tonight to try to finish this one and submit it. So I did want to give you an early update so I can continue on with it today. It's reading pretty quickly, so I do have hope that I should at least be able to get this in on time. I've definitely not done my best work on this leg of the journey. I'm hoping the prompts for the next leg give me more opportunities to kind of get to a lot of these books that I've been hoping to squeeze in from the Goodreads Choice Awards. So that's it for now. I need to get going, and I will talk to you tonight. All right, I'm back. I did indeed finish up The Merge today, and I really, really enjoyed this one. I think it was such an interesting concept, and it has a lot of things that remind me of John Mars. If you've read the Marriage Act, kind of his family and futuristic settings where the government gets overly involved, the world that includes the passengers and the one and things like that, where the government is getting involved in people's personal lives with various reasons and excuses for doing so. But I think that kind of concept had a lot of overlap with this one, with the idea of a government trying to handle limited resources by putting people in positions to merge identities and so forth. I think there were a ton of really good discussions in here about the ethics involved, about why someone might choose to do this. There are definitely triggering materials going on in here. We've got childbirth, we've got sick children, we've got suicide, we've got mental health for sure, Alzheimer's for sure, probably things I'm forgetting in the moment. But I think there's an interesting interplay between people saying, okay, thank you, you're doing this, it's helping the world, but also people losing autonomy and having to refigure out themselves and their lives and all of that as well. I really was hooked on reading this, didn't want to put it down, so it gets really good marks on that. The ending I'm not 100% sure about. This would be a fantastic book, I think, for a discussion, because there's definitely things that are a little bit open. There's things where you can discuss about motives and outcomes and all of those types of things. It's a great one, I think, for Team Rogue, because you definitely have people in here with some shady gray morality going on and people trying to buck the system a little bit and seeing where that goes. So this one was a solid 4-star, 4.5. I can't quite round it up to a 5, but it was definitely a fantastic read. So I have a little under an hour before the new prompts drop, so I think that obviously I don't really have time to do something new before that, but once the new prompts drop, my hope is to pick another Goodreads Choice Award nominee for the main quest prompt that we get tonight, and then from there we will do our best to try to match up some of the side quests as well. So for right now, I'm just gonna go take a shower, relax for a little bit, play some fetch with Kylie. She's being very kind. I took her ball away and she's been trying to find other noisy toys, but she took a break, and I'm ready to go ahead and feed her, relax, and settle in for a while. Not sure if I'll update you tonight or maybe tomorrow, depending on what the prompts look like and what I'm going with, but either way, I will check in with you. Good morning. We got our new prompts last night, and honestly, the main quest was a hard one. So it took me quite a while last night going through things and trying to figure out what to do for it. The quest prompt is for a book where a shop or a store or a market, something along those lines, is key to the story. And there are several Goodreads Award nominees that absolutely would have worked perfect for this, but I've read them and I went through everything else that I had any inclination toward, and those didn't have the right things necessarily, except for potentially one. So the book I'm going to be going with is Brigands and Bread Knives by Travis Baldree. This one just came out, but I do have an audiobook copy gifted from Macmillan Audio, and it's not one I was rushing to pick up. I've enjoyed the Legends and Launtes series. I haven't necessarily fallen in love. Cozy's not my sweet spot of fantasy, but obviously I have the copy. I wanted to eventually get to it, and in some way, shape, or form, I feel like the shop is at the center of the storyline in terms of how it brings the characters together. I gather they venture away from the shop in this particular story, so I'm curious to see how that goes, but it is definitely something that will suit the idea behind this prompt. So for this particular leg of the journey, we only have 6 prompt options. So we're switching out our D8 and we're going with a D6 dice. And I'm going to go ahead and maybe roll my first 2 just so I have some options, because some of these prompts are a little harder than others and aren't ones I necessarily have audiobooks super ready for. And since it is still in the middle of the week, I definitely need audio for commute and so forth. So I am going to go ahead and figure out what my first 2 prompts are and either pick a book or at least know what I need to be thinking about what to pick for. Okay, for roll number 1, we get a 1. And for roll number 2, we get a 2. All right, so for the first roll, we rolled a 1, and that one is Midnight Deal. Read a thriller, suspense, or crime-focused book. That should not be a problem for me. I don't know exactly what I'm going with for that yet, but that's okay. And then the second one, we rolled a 2, and that's the Puzzle Stall. Read a mystery or puzzle-based story, and that also definitely will give me options. So I think those 2 rolls could not have gone better. I definitely just need to narrow down kind of what I'm going to go with for those, and I will check back in once I have thoughts on my quest book and get some idea on my side quest. It is Friday morning, thankfully. I am taking some time to reassess what I think I can accomplish in this particular vlog because I think I'm overreaching. But let's talk about what I've done so far. I did read the entirety of Brigands and Bread Knives yesterday. I didn't really gel with it. It was take a cozy fantasy, which already isn't necessarily my favorite thing, and add it to a big journey, basically, which I can appreciate in a book that I'm engaged in. I wasn't super engaged by the characters in here. I did appreciate the kind of discussions that were had along the way. There were some interesting ones about what kind of a life plan is and how our character feels about being a bookseller and some of these things, but it didn't fully engage me. So I didn't come in with midway thoughts because A, I was out and about listening to it mostly on audio since I had the gifted Macmillan audio copy, but also I had just no real midway thoughts that were going to be a whole lot of different. I gave it a 3 in the end because I do think it was well written. I did appreciate some of what was going on in it. It just didn't work for me. I think maybe I'm done with this series. I don't know if there's plans for more, but I don't know if I'll be picking more of them up. So with that was disappointing, but I did go ahead and start on my next book. So where we last left, I needed 1 mystery and 1 kind of thriller crime novel. And the book I decided to start for my crime novel is King of Ashes by S.A. Cosby. This is an author that I know writes really, really gritty, really engaging books, and I'm finding it that here as well. It is a book that has some troubling moments in it. There's definitely some triggering material in here. The kind of concept of this is they're running a funeral home, and that's going to come into play with it. I know someone had warned me kind of about some of the gritty stuff about funeral homes and about kind of the ovens that they use there, let's put it that way. But it is an author that I've been really, really wanting to pick this one up. I've heard amazing things about it, and I'm about a third of the way in and definitely agree with it. We are following a main character who is a financial planner, advisor. I don't know what his official title is, but he's used to working with people with a gangster type image and advising them how to spend their money, how to save their money, things like that. He gets a call, he goes home because his father has been in an accident. And while he's there, he finds out his brother has gotten up to something stupid and has gotten himself involved with some really nasty guys. These aren't the ones who put on an image. These are the ones who are what they are. And this gets dangerous. This has consequences for him, for his family, his brother who got them into this, and financial implications, all the rest. He's done okay for himself, but his brother's got them in over even his head, and they need to figure out a way to deal with this and kind of take it to a different level. Paying them off just isn't going to work. So that's where kind of the brutality of this one comes in. We've already had some really cringe moments, but in a good way, in a really engaging way. It was a horrible commute home last night. It was raining really heavily. Having this on the audio definitely helped. I do have a gifted audiobook for this one, also from Macmillan Audio, and of course I picked it up from Book of the Month as well. So with that, I'm going to keep going on that one. And then our other prompt was to read a mystery, and that one I've decided to go with another mystery thriller, of course, from the Goodreads Awards, and that one is Forget Me Not by Stacey Willingham. This is an author I've read before and enjoyed before. This one, we have a girl who's gone missing, a sister who's gone missing, something along those lines. I have not started this one, but it is one I'm very intrigued to pick up, and it's another one that I have from Macmillan Audio, so we have an unintentional theme going on with our picks for this particular week. With that, I'm hoping I can maybe get to one more after this, but honestly, it's not going to be a great reading weekend necessarily. Tonight, I've got a watch along with Lexi and Books with Lexi to finish up the Alice in Borderland series. We've been watching that with her Patreon. It's been a lot of fun. And tomorrow, I have plans with my best friend to get out and about a little bit, tied to a different vlog. So with that, I don't think I'm going to get a ton of reading time in tomorrow. And I do need to film a few things this weekend. So it's going to be more of a doing things, less of a sitting and reading weekend, but we'll see. Maybe I can squeeze in one more potentially me, or at least get started and let you know what I'm working on next. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and continue on. I will provide you with an update. Hopefully I can maybe finish up King of Ashes today. I don't have a super heavy reading schedule today, so hopefully that means I will have time to kind of listen to my audiobook and get some busy work done, because that's really what I'm feeling like doing right now. Well, aside from just staying home. So that's the plan. I will check in hopefully tonight. Hello again. It is Saturday morning. I've been working on filming my TBR for December. That will be coming up after this vlog, I think, is currently the plan. We'll see. Maybe. Who knows anything at this point. But I did want to give you some updates because I have made some progress in my reading. First off, I did finish up King of Ashes, and this was not always easy to read, but it was fantastic at the same time. It definitely was brutal. It definitely had some cringy, gory moments, definitely some grief and loss, some bad decisions, or people being forced into bad decisions even, I would say. She's yawning and you see her nose. But I think this is an author who just writes really interesting, really good characters, really brutal situations, but also things where you feel for the characters and the positions they wind up in. Our older brother character in here, our main character, is backed into a corner because of the things his brother's gotten up to and the life that the people around them have led. And yes, he got away, but he gets thrown back into it by his family because of that loyalty that's there. He has a sister and a brother, and he loves them both, and he wants to protect them at all costs. And that I can understand, even as I don't necessarily like the directions maybe some of his choices took him in. But in the end, this one was really strong, either a 4.5 or a 5. I think I wasn't 100% in the mood for this dark of a story maybe this week, and that maybe brought my interest a little bit down. But overall, I still loved it. So I want to give it at least definitely a 5 on Goodreads, if not in my own kind of tracking spreadsheet. And then with that done, I did start and make it halfway into Forget Me Not by Stacey Willingham last night. And I'm having a great time with this one. It's definitely an easier read. It's definitely had some characters that made some choices that were interesting. But the premise of this one is that we are following a main character. She's a journalist. She's struggling to make ends meet in a very difficult industry. She has left her job to take on some more freelance projects, but that's not going so well. She gets a call from her father. Her mother's had an accident and has hurt herself, and she hasn't been home in 15 years. And part of the reason for that is that her sister disappeared many years ago as a teenager, as an 18 senior in high school. Her boyfriend, her much older boyfriend, was convicted of murdering her because they found blood. They never found a body. And that really broke apart their family. Her parents are divorced. Her mom still lives in the house where they all lived together at one point in time. And going home means kind of confronting some of that. She begins to kind of wonder about her sister, and her journalistic instincts kick in, and she starts asking questions and following in her sister's footsteps and just kind of trying to reconnect maybe with the past. And I'm finding that really intriguing. There's a case that's been in the news recently that has very similar kind of plot elements, for lack of a better term. I'm sure there's a better way to say that, to what her sister went through and the way the case was formed against the boyfriend and all of that. It's really interesting, this concept of a missing person who's declared dead and declared murder, even though you don't have a body. And there's enough evidence, obviously, that her older boyfriend was convicted. But me being me, I'm immediately thinking, she's alive somewhere because there's no body. But I think our main character kind of walking through the process and beginning to ask questions and stuff is just really intriguing. And it's a super easy one to listen to. I have the gifted audiobook from Macmillan Audio. I probably already mentioned that, but good to do it again. So consuming it by audio is definitely working well for this one. I should be smart enough to know that a battery's not going to last for me to do a vlog update after I've filmed a TBR on it. But I don't know exactly where it cut off, but I think this is easily consumable. I just kind of laid in bed with one of those kind of tap to color apps that are just kind of mindless, and that's what I needed on a Friday night. And it was kind of a perfect match to listening to a really easily consumable book at the same time. So I'm going to continue on with this one. I definitely want to also continue on with a little bit more. I did do the next 2 rolls in the hopes that maybe I can get to a couple more books. I'm not committing to that at this point, but the rolls that I got had to do with a secret location and a book revolving around food. So for Secret Location, I actually started last night listening to Oathbound by Tracy Deonn. This is the 3rd book in the Legendborn series, and one I've been super eager to get to. It's also the last book that I need to complete to finish off my 25 in 25 using the bingo board and prompts from Brie at 4 Paws in a Book. So that's really exciting. I'm only about 20% in. Don't know that I'll give you a lot of updates because at this point we're in book 3. I can say absolutely nothing about the plot or anything. That's really not a spoiler. Everything I think to say, I'm like, well, well, technically that's a spoiler, so I'm just not going to. But I am having a fun time. I got 20% into it really quickly. It is a relatively long book, so I'm not 100% guaranteed to finish it. But a really nice thing that one of our teammates earned for the entire team is that we now have the ability to swap one prompt to read any book we want, whether it fits the prompt or not. And that's for like the side questy books. And so I know for sure if this book doesn't make it into a side quest in this leg, doesn't match the main prompt for the final leg, I can at least submit it for a decent amount of page related points at whatever point I finish it. So that makes me really happy because this is a book I'm super excited to to read. There's a puppy here trying to jump back into my lap, partially because I took away a Snickers bar from her. So total side tangent as we're going here. My mother told a story many times over her life of the puppy she had in college, and the dog took a bag of chocolates or a box of chocolates or something, and all of her roommates thought the others had just eaten the whole thing and made off with it. And then the dog started bringing out one chocolate at a time, and they realized the dog had made off with the chocolates and stashed them somewhere that they couldn't find and was just going and bringing out a chocolate every once in a while. Well, Kylie did this to me this week, and I don't know, I left a gate open that I shouldn't have. She got upstairs, she took a bag of Snickers bars that I had, and I knew some seemed to be missing, but she brought me one in bed one night. She brought me one to the couch. She doesn't unwrap them, so it's not like super dangerous for her because they're individually wrapped, but I just now, behind the camera, found her with another one. So somewhere she has a stash that I don't know where they are. And it's really amusing me that apparently this is a family dog trait now. So anyway, that's what she's whining about. If you hear her at all, is I took her Snickers bar away from her because she keeps wanting me to open it. She has a history of bringing random foods. If I have a box of like individually packaged chips on the floor in the kitchen, she'll bring me up one of those, and she wants me to open it and eat it and share it with her. But I'm not going to share a chocolate bar with her. I hate to tell her. Anyway, that was a total tangent, but it's amusing me, so I had to share. But with that, I am going to go make myself another coffee. I've been talking for too long with a voice that's not 100% there, and I'm going to keep reading for a while before I have to get out into the world today. Hello again. I am back with some updates for you. For my mystery read, Forget Me Not by Stacey Willingham. I finished that one up yesterday. I'm losing track of time. Yesterday, I think. And I had a great time with it. I do think that there were some surprises along the way. I do think that there were some twists and turns I was able to guess, but also they wound up going in a different direction than I really thought they were going to, which I really appreciated. And I just really like her writing. It's engaging. It's easy to get into. It's easy to multitask with. So I was able to get a few things done while I was reading it. And overall, I had a good time. I was out and about and was able to listen to the audio, which I thought was well done. I think the elements of the journal that we get in here, because we're reading journal for the past timeline that gets introduced, were well integrated. Journals don't always work for me, but I think in this case it added just enough information without overtaking the whole narrative. There were some reveals for sure that I didn't expect with our characters, and the author did things in creative ways. I think there definitely are trigger warnings with this, especially with the idea of missing young women, older men, and you can kind of guess what some of those areas are, but if there are concerns, I would definitely look into that. So with that one done, I did continue on with some of my other picks. For my dice roll, the next one that I had me reading a book with secret locations, and for this one I decided to go with Oathbound by Tracy Deonn. I think I already mentioned that, but I am now like 75% of the way through, so I do think there's a good chance I will be able to finish that up before this leg of the journey ends. I need to double check in my mind when exactly that journey does end, if it's tonight or tomorrow night. That I still need to see. But then I did do a final roll, and the prompt for this one was to read a book that centers on food, and I took this a little bit of a stretch, but not that much of a stretch really. And the book I'm reading for that one is What Hunger by Catherine Dang. This is in the horror category, and it is very much a family drama and grief story to start with, and then it starts going in some darker directions. At the halfway point, I'm on page 134 out of like 260 something. So pretty much spot on halfway through. It has pretty much been family drama, immigrant family drama, and grief and loss. There are a lot of things in the synopsis that are hinted at, so I don't want to fully say what happens in here, but we have a Vietnamese family, a set of parents, and their older son and their younger daughter. We are reading everything from the daughter's POV. She's 14, at least as of the start of this book. She's about to go into her first year of high school. Her brother has just graduated high school. He is the honored son. He's the best of all things. And as the synopsis puts it, there's a tragedy and things take a turn. And our main character is dealing with a lot of grief and rage and just a lot of things kind of happening around her. Her best friends have had this amazing summer. They've gone off, they've had boyfriends, and she really has a very limited life. Her family keeps her home all summer, but she really has nothing to do. She's been exploring romance books, but trips to the library are about all she gets up to. And her family's going through a lot, so there's a lot of extra pressures from there. And still, she's in her brother's shadow constantly. When something happens, and the synopsis says that a boy crosses the line with her not long after what happened to her brother, and she gets this hunger. Think the eyes are the best part, kind of a hunger. And the thing that happens to her, the boy crossing the line, is not super graphic because she's a little bit out of it during it herself, but it is definitely on page. So that is definitely a potential trigger warning in here. With that, she is kind of feeling her rage and her emotions, and everything is heightened, and her hunger is heightened, hence the title. So the first half of this, I think, has been well done. The family dynamics, the everything going on with the family, you get a lot of discussions about losing the language because the Americans, meaning the kids, don't learn Vietnamese. The adults and their relatives are speaking in a language that the kids don't entirely understand. They pick up bits and pieces, but not really. And, you know, the different ways people look at them differently because they're not the white Americans that their friends are. And there have been a lot of really good discussions in here. I think it's going to probably ramp up a bit in the second half. I'm not necessarily thinking it's going to go totally off the wall, but I could be wrong. So I am very eager to continue on. I was doing some live reading sprints with Lexi's Patreon this morning, and I made, like I said, halfway through this one and hopeful to finish the rest of this up today. I definitely have been getting sleepy. I might even treat myself to one extra coffee for the day. I have a watch along this afternoon. I'll be taking a reading break for that. But mostly my goal today is to relax and read and make lunch at some point. So that's the plan. And I will check in with you later. It is Monday night. It is just after 9:30. And with 20 minutes to spare this evening, I did indeed finish up What Hunger. So overall, I like this one. It wasn't what I really thought it was going to be. And that's on me, I think. It's much more about family relationships and grief and trauma and overcoming all of these things and so forth than it is really the horror. I wouldn't necessarily almost feel like it's horror. I mean, it is. The tropes in here, the things going on in here definitely go in the horror range, but the family story is more at the forefront. I've heard several people describe this in comparison to The Eyes Are the Best Part, which again is very much a story where there's also some horror elements layered in. I think this one fits in that same category, so I think it will probably work well for a similar audience. I think it handled the different issues of kind of the American way of doing things versus the Vietnamese way of doing things, the different languages, the cultures, the divide that happens between the children and the parents encouraging the kids to be American, but also in some ways looking down on some of the things they do as American children, and the differences between them and their white classmates, and the way people handle someone who's been through grief. There's a lot of really good discussions throughout in here, I think. So overall, I found it a little on the slow side, but for what it was doing, that kind of made sense. It wasn't like a binge read type of book, but in the end, I'm giving it 4 stars. I enjoyed it. I think it was well done in that regard. So with that, I am going to go ahead and wrap up this particular vlog. It was a little bit all over the place. I didn't quite get all the reading in at the beginning of it that I wanted to, but toward the end, I definitely picked up my pace. We just got our new prompts for the final week. I'm actually not going to be completing the main quest. I do have a card that lets me go ahead and move on to side quests if I want to. And honestly, at this point in the month, my TBR is kind of down to things that I do need to get to before the end of the month, and the side quests work better for that. So that will not specifically be in a vlog, but I am working on an arc attack. That's going to be the majority of my reading for the rest of the month, and that will eventually be coming out. So I'll be submitting additional books for Team Rogues as we go. So with that, I am going to go ahead and wrap things up. Let me know in the comments below, have you read any of the books that I read during this? What's been a highlight of your month for November? I can't believe November is nearly over. That is just wild to me. I just don't know where this year went. And if you've made made it this far and you don't have anything to comment, maybe leave me some sort of a food emoji for what hunger. And with that, I have a very excited dog waiting for attention, so I will wrap up here. Thank you so much to Ivy for putting on a really fun readathon. It's not over yet. I will still be contributing, but this is my final vlog, so I wanted to say a thank you. And for everyone, thank you for being here. If you could hit that like button below, I would surely appreciate it, and subscribe if you're interested in my upcoming ARC reviews, my future readathon participation, and my bookish content in general. But for now, I'll leave you here and see you real soon in a new video.